And now, Good Mike Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
The wrestling world is still reeling just a little bit over 24 hours after we learned of the horrific Vince McMahon sexual abuse, sex trafficking, and emotional abuse lawsuit that he is currently facing. And as a community, we all learned this information together yesterday. We did a live stream on this where we tried our best to detail the very, very graphic 67-page lawsuit filed by Janelle Grant against Vince McMahon, alleging a lot of really, really putrid and disgusting and horrific behavior. Some of it has to be read twice to be believed. Today, we're not going to be reading through any of those horrific details. I want to try to keep all of the graphic nature of Vince McMahon's troubles and his lawsuit confined to yesterday's video. It was bad enough having to read that shit, a lot of that stuff out loud, and we only read a fraction of it. All of the disgusting things we got into yesterday was only about 2 or 3 pages out of the 67 that was filed on Vince McMahon, detailing a lot of this abuse in very, very graphic description. And I think a lot of us are still a little bit grossed out, a little bit shocked, and a little bit uncertain as to what the future is in WWE, because we have a pay-per-view weekend, a big pay-per-view tomorrow that I was really, really looking forward to, and I'm still going to do my best to look forward to it. By the way, we have a watch party tomorrow afternoon watching the entire Royal Rumble pay-per-view, so join us tomorrow for that. And I wanted to look forward to this, but this is one really, really dark cloud that's going to be really tough to sweep under the rug or wait to blow over. WWE needs to do some damage control, and they need to do it now. And I think the number one priority for that company is to completely out Vince McMahon. He needs to go, and he needs to go yesterday. This doesn't need to take another 2 months to figure out. I mean, this is something that the WWE immediately needs to get on top of, because I think the domino effect here could really negatively affect WWE, TKO, and Endeavor's business with all of the backlash, especially if you start talking about losing sponsors, which they may have lost their Royal Rumble sponsor. There's no confirmation on that yet, but WrestleVotes sent out a tweet today that said they are hearing rumblings that Slim Jim was pulling their advertising from this weekend's Royal Rumble, and more advertisers could follow. Now, we have yet to see any confirmation on any of this, but if that turns out to be the case, you can expect that having a negative effect as well. So from a corporate and business standpoint, you would think that TKO is going to try to get on top of this as quickly as possible. And to be honest with you, not only does Vince McMahon need to be removed immediately, I think anybody who enabled this or was aware of it or participated in any cover-ups whatsoever needs to go, even if those people are extremely crucial to the current WWE creative product. Because that's not as important, as what the behavior that has been going on in WWE, specifically with Vince McMahon for so long. And when you think about, one of the very first accusations that we heard about Vince all the way back in the 80s with Rita Chatterton and that disgusting story, and then you think about the details in the lawsuit that we read yesterday, and think about everything that must have come in between those two incidents, because we already know that Vince McMahon paid nearly $14 million out in hush money and NDA agreements to 4 different women. And I think Janelle Grant was, maybe one of the initial ones, in that had kind of come out, and that WWE was conducting an internal investigation about, even though I don't believe she was ever interviewed for anything. But this whole thing is really, really ugly, and this whole situation just sucks. It just sucks. I don't really know what else to say about it. Yesterday, I was just here trying to make sense of all of it, even though we always knew Vince McMahon was a dirty creep. Some of the details in that lawsuit that we read yesterday were just a little bit too graphic to even be believed. It was just unbelievable, the disgusting mind that lives inside of Vince McMahon and the adverse effect it's having on WWE's business and their future. Now, luckily for them, they already did the merger with TKO or with Endeavor last year, forming TKO. The Rock joined the board of directors just this past week, and they have moved Monday Night Raw to Netflix, and they're going to be receiving, a huge increase in revenue from that, and they are going to be bringing in billions next year. But the immediate future is going to be really, really rocky for WWE because they're going to be under the microscope, they're going to be under scrutiny, and how they deal with this is going to be really important, because if they keep Vince McMahon around any longer than Monday, I'm really going to be shocked. I mean, he needs to sell all of his shares and he needs to get completely detached and away from that company, even though he's just a trophy in the corner now. He's already kind of been moved out of the day-to-day operations. Even TKO said as much in their statement yesterday. We know Vince McMahon is just there as a formality, just as a figurehead, but still, that's too much. He needs to completely go. There needs to be no more Vince McMahon anywhere around this company at all. And he was just standing right next to The Rock a couple of days ago at the New York Stock Exchange, and that needs to end. In terms of everybody else that enabled this behavior or is complicit or had anything to do with any sort of cover-up at all. And again, I don't know what constitutes criminal behavior, because with Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis here, they were engaging in criminal activity. I don't know the legal system. I don't know the statute of limitations. If this thing ends up in a criminal court with a jury and a trial, Vince McMahon could be in a world of shit, especially if this NDA is nullified, since Vince McMahon didn't follow through on the payments, and since some of the language in there with the sex trafficking laws is going to null and void the NDA anyway. You have to wonder if some of the previous women that did sign NDAs, if theirs are going to be nullified, and we hear even more stories. And that's the frightening thing about all of this. It's what we mentioned yesterday. Every disgusting thing that we talked about yesterday, you can't even imagine it getting worse. And then it does. And then you read all of that stuff yesterday, and it's like, this is just one woman. How many other women has he shit on, literally? And I'm just curious, like, how much uglier this is going to get. And I wonder too internally how much, Nick Khan and WWE and Endeavor executives and Ari Emanuel knew about what could potentially come out. And maybe they've been positioning themselves all along to where when the final shoe drops, they can push Vince McMahon out really easily. But then again, Ari Emanuel stood behind Dana White when he was on video slapping his wife. So shit, you never know. But I think based on the vulgar nature of these accusations and everything detailed in the lawsuit, I just don't see. I'm surprised Vince is still there. I thought this would be an immediate thing. This is not something in today's world that you can really drag your feet on, because these are things that were known about Vince McMahon. It's not like Vince McMahon has never had this reputation. It's not like Mick Foley was served with this lawsuit, because if he was, you would be like, what? That is almost too hard to believe. But when this is Vince McMahon we're talking about, with the reputation we know he already has, he's a fucking pervert, and he always has been, even on TV. Some of the things that he's pitched in storylines, rape angles with The Undertaker's wife, incest angles with Stephanie and Shane, all these other crazy ideas that this man has in his warped, deranged, ludicrous fucking brain is really, really disgusting. It's off-putting, and he's going to go down as a disgraced man. And to be honest with you, that's exactly what he deserves. It is. You most successful promoter of all time. I don't know what it is when you're drunk with power, how that can really, screw up your behavior. On Tuesday, we did a big 40th anniversary on the Birth of Hulkamania video, and I talked a lot about him too in the same light. Even though Vince's accusations, anything Hogan done is not really the same thing, but it's still like, what is it with these people that have had so much success, made so much money, and should be so proud of the success that they have had? You would think that they would be happy and live a nice life, enjoying all of the fruits of their labors and all of the money that they've earned, but instead they decide to behave or devolve and act like they're a freshman in college again or something, and get themselves in all kinds of trouble. And Vince, here he is pushing 80 years old, And, he's talking about, you're so hot, I'll rape you in the hallway if I see you and stuff. Like, who the fuck talks like this, much less an 80-year-old dude? So it's really gross. It's really disgusting. Vince McMahon is a putrid individual, and he needs to be completely removed from anything WWE related. And if there needs to be more investigations or whatever internally in WWE, because there's a lot of people who have worked side by side with Vince McMahon for a long time. Kevin Dunn just bounced out of the company. Bruce Pritchard is there, who's had several different stints with Vince McMahon dating all the way back to the 80s. And his son-in-law, Triple H, is the head of creative. Now, I would like to think, although there are no limits to Vince McMahon's perversion, I would like to believe that if Vince McMahon is going around showing other wrestlers pictures of the naked pictures of the chick he's banging, look at what I did to her. Look, she's tied up against the furnace and she's covered in Nutella or whatever. Like, I would hope that if he shows these to Brock or to tech people or his other buddies or Undertaker, he would not show them to the husband of his daughter. You would think. So, with Triple H, I don't even know how you properly speak on this, because as a fan watching the product, we need Triple H. But the product and the storylines are not as important as the safety of, workers in this company and the protection of women and the elimination of abuse, especially sexual abuse. And anybody that had any fingerprints on this at all, I believe, should go. I just don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, this might have to be WWE's ultimate cleansing, the final shakeout. The last 2 years, getting all that nasty Vince stuff out. Then the merger happens. Then Vince is pushed out. Maybe the rest of the McMahons are as well. And they can shake out any of that nasty leftover crap from the Vince administration and Vince era in the company and move the company in a more positive direction, change the public's perception. I mean, as many black eyes and scandals as WWE has had throughout their history, it amazes me how much money they're still able to pull in. So maybe this can be the ultimate new chapter for WWE, shedding that skin of scandal and corruption and filthy, filthy behavior that's been going on in WWE for nearly 5 decades now. And maybe that's what this is going to be all about. It's a little bit worrisome as a fan. We got Royal Rumble tomorrow. We have WrestleMania coming up. We don't know how any of that's going to affect this. WWE appears to be business as usual. All of the talent is doing the media rounds today for Royal Rumble weekend. A lot of our friends from the YouTube community are there doing stuff. And tonight's SmackDown is stacked up. We got a tag team title match. The Kabukis taking on Katana in the other one. We got Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes. We have LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. We have Santos Escobar and Carlito. And we're going to hear from Lashley's gang. And maybe, some final Roman Reigns and Bloodline stuff too heading into tomorrow. And tomorrow was looking really, really fun. It really was. But now I'm not sure how much of this Vince stuff it could potentially affect tomorrow. There's one big name that I think could be affected by that, and that's Brock Lesnar. But in terms of the rest of WWE's plans going into tomorrow or WrestleMania, I don't know how much effect the Vince McMahon stuff is going to have on that, if at all, or if a lot of people are fucking nervous right now, knowing that the hammer might come down and WWE has no choice for their reputation and their future than to eliminate anybody that had anything to do with this and focus their efforts on consequences and accountability and the future of the company. That might be what they have to do or what they determine needs to be done here, especially if advertisers are dropping off. And that's a big thing to think about. So it's ugly, it sucks, and it's just what I talked about yesterday. We've seen a lot of different momentum shifts between WWE and AEW, a couple of different scandals, a couple of different ugly black eyes on both companies that has increased and decreased the momentum of each company. And that's why I've always said, don't get too comfortable, don't get too complacent, and don't think if you're a tribal fan and you're firmly on one side or the other, don't think things are all great, because they can change overnight. And this is a really good example of that, because there are a lot of people. Now, for me, it's hard for me to tell. I've been doing YouTube for so long. I don't know how I would be acting right now if I haven't been on YouTube for the last 13 years. If I was still watching as I almost don't remember what it's like just to be a casual fan. If I was still watching as a casual fan and this was going down and I learned all this stuff, I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't know any of you. I don't have an online social media presence at all. And I'm just, regular ass Greg reading this news at home. I don't know if I'm watching anymore. it's really hard to justify. And you have to think about, there are going to be plenty of fans that are going to be so turned off by this, especially a lot of women that, could have been potentially triggered, or bringing back some, bad emotional memories of their own for anybody who's had to deal with abuse just from reading the horrific details of that, of what Vince did in that lawsuit. So, I don't know as a fan how I would feel about this. I mean, I might still watch, but it would be heavily weighing on my mind. So WWE's got to think about that too, that there is going to be, a decrease in fan enthusiasm from this. That's just natural. So it's just a matter of moving on from it and seeing if they can rebuild and get away and distance themselves from everything Vince McMahon related. And that might even include Benoiting the guy, giving them the Chris Benoit treatment. It's going to be impossible to ignore Vince McMahon's influence on WWE. How can you do that? It's one thing if it's just one wrestler. Okay, if one wrestler does something, really, really horrible, you can just kind of erase them as best you can from history. But Vince McMahon is everywhere. He's the whole reason WWE existed. Of all the people you want to erase from history, this has got to be the hardest one if you're WWE. And I don't know what they do. I think the next couple of days is going to be crucial in terms of public opinion and perception of them, how they handle this, how they deal with this, and what their initial reactions and responses to this are going to be. And tomorrow, at the end of a pay-per-view presser or scrum is not the environment to get true answers about Vince McMahon. But if they go through with this scrum tomorrow, they are going to be asked questions about this. There is no way they can't be. For all the people who say, the journalists don't ask the right shit, they're gonna tomorrow. And I have a feeling that Triple H, like I said yesterday, might just issue one big blanket statement at the end saying, look, I cannot talk about any of that, but we are aware, we are looking into it, we're horrified by the details, whatever he's going to say. But at the same time, he's talking about his father-in-law. It's going to be really hard for Triple H to play dumb. Because as fans, we know how dirty Vince is. So what must people who actually know Vince know about him? And with Triple H and a lot of people in WWE, I think they might not have known these specific details, but they definitely knew that Vince is a sexual predator, 100%. I think a lot of employees and fans and wrestlers and anybody who's ever known Vince has known that he's a fucking hornball and he's also crazy. But it's one of those things where he's, it's just like people in the Trump's own administration and crew and posse. They know he's fucking nuts. He know he's a ketchup throwing fucking maniac, but they just do it because they work for him and all of that. And, what I've been trying to tell myself over the past couple of days is that, and I'm sorry for not acknowledging the chat yet, I will in a minute. I've been trying to tell myself that WWE employs nearly 1,000 full-time employees. Probably a whole bunch of more part-time employees too. I don't even know if that includes ring crew folks or not, but I keep telling myself that there are still plenty of honest, hardworking, and genuinely good people that work for that company that aren't total pieces of shit. They're not all total pieces of shit. Vince, there's going to be some accountability in Vince's inner circle. There's going to be some accountability on the people that Vince McMahon shared this information with. I think Kevin Dunn would be on the hot seat if he was still there. That's why I'm a little bit worried about Bruce. I don't think Bruce participated or anything like that, but Bruce has known Vince McMahon since like 1986. You don't think Vince might have been like, hey, Bruce, look at this, and again, with Triple H, I would be really disgusted if Vince McMahon showed the husband of his daughter sexually explicit pictures of another woman. But then again, this is a guy that's pitched incest angles with his own children before, so I don't think there's any limits to what Vince McMahon would deem appropriate. But I hope with Triple H, it's no more than just us fans, because like I said yesterday, I said this 3 or 4 times when we were detailing the lawsuit. I said, as gross as all of this is, and as shocking as it is, at the end of the day, I'm not surprised, which means shouldn't I be held accountable? I've always known that Vince was like this, and I've been consuming his product, even saying his praises a couple of times while acknowledging what a dirty piece of shit he is, and I hate him. I've been pretty complimentary of Vince's career on the channel here for the past 13 years. Can't lie about that. So does that make me a bad person? It's different for us fans that I'm comparing myself to Triple H. Listen to me. but I don't know how, far this reaches, but I think damage control, no pun intended, not the faction on SmackDown, but actual damage control needs to be done, and needs to be done swiftly if you're TKO and if you're Endeavor. And maybe that's what they're trying to figure out right now. Maybe all that's in the works. And then on Monday, we get some big news dropping about Vince McMahon being permanently removed from all things TKO and Endeavor and WWE. We don't know, but still reeling. It's kind of a bummer because I've been really optimistic and happy about the direction and nature of the pro wrestling business lately. I think it's been awesome. And WWE getting white hot this year was something that I wasn't expecting the last 2 years and ever since the Vince hush money scandal broke initially, nearly 2 years ago now, it felt like WWE's been on an uprise, at least from a product TV perspective, ever since. And AEW was really, really hot there that put the pressure on WWE, and then AEW saw a dip and WWE, got hotter, and now maybe AEW can experience a little bit of growth from this WWE scandal as well. And I've been really, really happy with the business for the past year or so. I'm like, this is so great. For years, we were sitting here on this channel just bored off our asses. Now there are things to talk about again. People are jumping ship. We have competition. Both companies are pushing each other to do better. There's a thriving indie scene right now. Lots of free agents. There's stuff happening. There's headlines out the ass. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. That's what I've been saying for the past 2 years here on this channel. It doesn't feel like a great time to be a wrestling fan today. You feel gross. You feel fucking gross. And like I said yesterday, I apologize for reading through a lot of those details. We're not going to rehash any of that here, but at the same time, we have a job to do. And I believe that, that sometimes you just need to nut up and face a difficult situation head on. I hope that yesterday's discussion didn't trigger anybody. I hope that it didn't bring up or cause you any, emotional distress whatsoever. So I do apologize for that. But at the same time, this is life. You can't ignore life. You can't run away from it. And these are things that we need to talk about. So we talked about that yesterday, and we did so in extremely graphic detail. And like I said, don't want to be doing that here. Nobody needs to hear that shit twice. That's for sure. But if anybody's not read the lawsuit, I encourage you to do it, because one thing that I saw a lot of today on social media, you have a very specific type of male wrestling fan that defends Vince McMahon. They're all the same. They say the same shit. They follow the same people. They all have the same complaints and timelines, and they're a dime a dozen fucking assholes. And I guarantee you, none of these people read this lawsuit. You have to read this stuff, to really digest it, and for people that say, oh, it's just a hit piece or whatever, that's fucking ignorant. And that. To bend over backwards to defend the behavior of a disgusting sexual predator like that is inexcusable, completely inexcususable. Vince McMahon, I hope he faces criminal charges for this. If any of this turns out to be true, then let's put this shit to trial. If you can get a jury. Let's get witnesses. Let's talk about it. Let's subpoena people, and let's hold these motherfuckers accountable for real, is what I would do. And that's what I hope happens at the end of the day here. Maybe all of that is in process right now. Who knows? But whatever happens needs to happen quickly if I'm WWE or TKO. So there's my little opening 22-minute statement there on the latest on Vince McMahon and this lawsuit and what can potentially happen in the future. So in this episode, we'll talk a little bit more about this, couple of other news tidbits, and then we will predict the Royal Rumble, which, correct me if I'm wrong, four matches, U.S. title, Fatal 4-Way, Men's Rumble, Women's Rumble. There's not a women's title on the line, right? Rhea is not defending her title, right? And neither is Aew, right? Unless I'm missing these matches, but I don't see them anywhere. Looks like tomorrow is a 4-match card. So we will predict that, and we'll talk about all the potential surprises that we could see in the Royal Rumble. I'll tell you one surprise we're not going to see. MJF. Been seeing his name all over the place today. I'm like, he's not going to be in the Rumble. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? If he is, I'll be here eating crow. But no, MJF. Maxwell Jacob Friedman is not going to be at the Royal Rumble. Maxwell Moon has a better chance of being at the Royal Rumble, but I guess you never know. We'll talk about the surprises, and I've got a couple of surprises on my mind that I'd like to mention as well. Let's go over here to the chat and finally say hello to everybody. Decent looking audience in here today, and thank you to everyone who joined yesterday. We topped out at almost 600 in the chat here yesterday. And if you are not a subscriber, please become one and join us tomorrow as we will be watching the Royal Rumble together right here live on YouTube. Watch party link is already up on my page, so save that for tomorrow. Smash that like button and stick around. Let's say hello to anybody that I can. I don't actually see any super chats, so that's good. We don't have to worry about those. Good to see some of our channel members in here, like my boy Amato. We got Ken Webb is in here as well. Sonic Plays, Stone Cold, Ben. Oh my God, there's a ton of people in here. All right, we're not going to be able to do shout outs. I'm just going to kind of scroll down and see if anything is sticking out that I need to mention. Right on, John. Okay, and you're saying the press conference, it has been set as of now. So they are going to do the presser tomorrow after the Royal Rumble. And like I said, I don't even think really personally that tomorrow is really an appropriate place to get any answers. Obviously, you're going to have to ask those questions, but you would feel like that's going to be so dominant. I feel like either Triple H or maybe even a Nick Khan opens the presser and issues one big statement about it. That's what I think might happen. And, you know, I saw just a lot of disgusting behavior today. You know, you guys, you got to realize and recognize who the real enemies are here. You know, and when you read all of these things that Vince McMahon has done, you want to know who the enemy is not? It's wrestling journalists. So if they're at the Royal Rumble and they're out to lunch and they take a picture and you're all freaked out and you're making it about the Vince thing, you pussies better ask about the Vince thing or whatever. You guys are, whatever the hell you're complaining about. You better bring the same energy as the Jericho stuff. You guys are focusing on all of the wrong shit. The fact that that is your main concern. The fact that wrestling journalists that you've been programmed and brainwashed to hate for no fucking reason, who just live their goddamn lives and are more successful than you, quite frankly, you are making it about them? Fuck them. Who cares about them? It has nothing to do with them. This lawsuit is disgusting and detailed graphic and horrific details about exactly how perverted the mind of Vince McMahon is and the damage and the abuse that he has put multiple women through. Degrading and abusive type of crap, and you're worried about how a journalist is going to react to it, and you're comparing it to what goes on in AEW and the Jericho stuff. Jericho even liked a tweet yesterday. Somebody said, there better be the same. What is it with fans worrying about the same energy? You better bring that same energy. Everybody that I associate with does. So I don't know who the fuck these people are that you don't think are bringing the same energy. But Jericho even liked to tweet about they better bring the same energy on Vince that they did on Jericho. I'm like, if I'm Jericho, I don't even want to compare my situation to Vince McMahon. But yet he does. And hearing people say, like, I mean, it feels like this is all that's been talked about. You have people out there worrying about that WWE's not getting enough flack for this, or people aren't going to ask hard enough questions tomorrow. After a pay-per-view scrum, after a goddamn Royal Rumble isn't going to be where you're going to get the proper answers about the Vince McMahon stuff anyway. So what the fuck does that matter? Obviously, they're going to ask questions about it. Obviously, something that is going to be said about it. But wrestling journalists and Tony Khan is not your enemy today. Okay? If you want to obsess about those people, do it any other fucking day of the week. Has nothing to do with them now. Although Tony Khan did tweet today that a picture of himself wearing 2021 glasses from, I guess, New Year's that year. And he says, AEW in 2024 is the new AEW in 2021. Now, I never want to be happy about anybody being abused. You know, with Tony Khan, I'm sure he's sitting in his house, though, right now, loving this controversy that is falling on WWE right now. You know why? Because when shit hits the fan in AEW, WWE loves it as well. All that brawl out and brawl in stuff, the CM Punk and Jack Perry fight, all of the negative stories that we've heard in AEW behind the scenes, WWE loves every minute of it. So the companies really do get off on the others suffering. So if I'm not holding WWE, at fault for laughing at Tony Khan and his problems, I'm not going to hold Tony Khan at fault for laughing at Vince's problems either. But I do think there needs to be a line there to where some of this stuff goes beyond business. Some of this goes beyond, wrestling tribalism. And a lot of this goes beyond WWE and AEW. We're talking about, sex trafficking violations here, laws that are being broken, abuse, these text messages that were released. And Vince McMahon truly believes that he owns these women as if they are his property. He can do whatever he wants to them physically. They're not going to be able to talk because something's going to be in their mouth. They better not walk past his room, or he's going to have his way with them right there in the hallway, or he'll just take them in his hotel room and defecate on their faces. Just depends on how he feels that day. So I think even for Tony Khan, even though there's probably a part of him that's really, really enjoying the turmoil WWE's going through, you really need to think about the victims here first and foremost, above all else. And I think that making light of it or tweeting out a picture of yourself smiling isn't a good look either, to be honest, because it'd be one thing if this is some other stupid bullshit. If Vince was caught doing a victimless crime where the only person he hurt was himself, if he got his dick stuck in a storm drain on the street or something and fire trucks had to come pull him out and it was just embarrassing, then we'd be laughing our asses off. But, this is somebody else that he abused, and she isn't the only one. We've heard Rita Chatterton. There was the masseuse in Florida, and apparently 4 women that he's paid out over $12 million in hush money to. And you think about that time gap, from when Vince took over from his father to present day, that's a long time. That's 44 years now that this behavior for sure could have been going on. And who knows what Vince was even doing in his childhood or in that trailer park in North Carolina. I've always said and believed that something gnarly happened to Vince when he was a kid. I fully believed he was abused or molested or something, because he comes across that way. And, the way he overcompensated and some of the things he said about his former stepfather and just being very, very aggressive, in his adult life, makes me wonder what kind of background and childhood this guy had. All I know is an adult and as an adult old man, he's fucking gross and needs to be dealt with swiftly. Get him out of there, WWE. What a day, man. What a week. I've been up here every day this week except for Wednesday here on the channel talking about something, because we were here on Monday to talk about Raw. Then on Tuesday, we had the big story about Raw moving to Netflix and The Rock joining the TKO board. So we came up on that day as well. Then that's simultaneously that day, I dropped my Hulkamania video. Then we were up here yesterday talking about the Vince McMahon lawsuit. We're up here today to talk about Royal Rumble and try to predict that. And then we are here tomorrow for the watch party. It's been a week. It's been a week, y'all. I am yet to see the Velveteen Dream interview. He did sit down with Chris Van Vliet. Chris has enough good faith in the wrestling community where if there's anybody that I could trust to conduct an interview with Velveteen, it would be Chris. Anybody else doing it, I'm not sure if I would want to watch it. So I saw a lot of people kind of getting on him. Oh, don't platform a pedophile. Chris Van Vliet is not that guy. He is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I think that he is fair to give everybody a chance, everybody a platform. He's had a lot of controversial figures on his show. It's what he does. It is his job. And I think if an undesirable person or someone with a bad reputation or someone with a lot of accusations is going to do an interview anywhere, I'm going to trust it most with Chris. So I've yet to see it, but I doubt anything that I see in it is going to anger me in any way, especially towards Chris. But it will. I also don't really care much about Velveteen Dream. Man, my God, I was so high on him. I thought this guy was going to be main event in WrestleMania. I was giddy about his future. But once we learned what he was up to, kind of makes you stop caring. And I really don't give a shit about Velveteen Dream. If he's rehabilitated, if he's sorry, I don't care to ever see him again. I just don't fucking care. But I am curious to see how that interview went. If I'm missing any supers or anything like that, I am terribly sorry. Gabriel Pelosius, thank you for the $2. Hey, Greg, hope all is good. Glad to hear from you. Well, I'm glad to hear from you too, man. Just going to see what else is being said in here before we start getting into our Royal Rumble predictions here. Right. Well, B40 says, Endeavor losing business does not affect my life in the least, could care less. That's incredibly selfish. It's not about you, you know? Yeah, obviously what goes on in Endeavor doesn't affect your life, doesn't mean it doesn't matter. There was a victim here, man, you know? And I think that a lot of people look at things, you know, too selfishly in a lot of ways. Well, it's not my business. I don't give a shit. I'm like, yeah, I might care about that in certain situations, but in this specific case, when you read these details in this lawsuit, you know, there are a minimum of 4 victims here, and Vince McMahon has probably had a lot more. And I think these Janelle Grant accusations are probably things that occurred with lots of women in Vince's life. And even though it just doesn't personally affect you, it could personally affect other people like who work in Endeavor and TKO and WWE. Like I said earlier, I want to tell myself that there are still plenty of hardworking, genuinely honest, good people working for that company that don't deserve to have their livelihoods terminated because of the actions of one disgusting pervert. Now, people close to him, people who enabled it, people covered it up, hold them all accountable. But the people who are innocent in this, that are just trying to work there, have a job, and support their families, you know, they don't deserve to just have everything terminated all because of the behavior of one. So it's a touchy situation, but just because it doesn't affect your life, you know, doesn't make it a non-issue, you know, just common sense. And, you know, Vince McMahon and his history, there was a lot of people have been bringing up, which is another really ugly, dark thing to talk about. We've talked about it before. And that is the Ashley Mazzaro situation when she was raped back in that Kuwait tour back in 2006 by a military doctor. And WWE covered it up. Vince McMahon didn't want her to report it because it would affect WWE's relationship with the military. Ashley Mazzaro took her own life. And this is the type of mentality that Vince McMahon has. He does not see women as real people. He doesn't see them as human. He doesn't believe that they have human brains and human emotions that, you know, can be affected by this type of behavior and having other people act like they own you and can control you. And the fact that Vince put his business and the perception his business gets because of its relationship with the military. You think Vince really, really, truly cared about those troops? Or was it more about, hey, look at us, WWE, we're giving to the troops? Stephanie McMahon herself has talked about how philanthropy is very, very good business. And when WWE does these tribute to the troops shows, it's very, very good publicity. And Vince McMahon probably did not want to lose that and have any sort of accusation from his company coming against the military. And he chose that over the mental and physical well-being of one of his talents. And the domino effect that had in Ashley Mazzaro's life and mentally on her, and the toll that it took was horrific. And if this situation would have been handled differently, who knows? You know, Ashley Mazzaro might have a podcast right now, but we'll never know that. And it's like a lot of these little situations you're going to start getting reminded of about Vince, because there are so many, some ones you forgot or just little occurrences here. And who knows how many more are going to come out of the woodwork, especially if any previously signed NDAs are nullified. If that happens, you think what we read yesterday was bad? Just wait. So Vince McMahon needs to go. He just needs to go. Man, oh man. Should we try to predict this Royal Rumble? Oh, by the way, we also want to wish the best to former WWE announcer Kevin Patrick, who was released this week. He was released this week. I believe Michael Cole will be taking his place tonight, so Cole is back in the SmackDown chair. He will be joined by Corey Graves moving forward, which I guess Cole is back to doing double duty again. I don't know if they're going to attempt to replace Patrick with someone else, or if they're just going to have Cole do it for now. I would love to see Mauro Ranallo come back into the mix. That would be kind of fun. Plus, Mauro Ranallo's so batshit nuts, it would give SmackDown kind of a different identity, and that's one thing I've been complaining about for 25 years now, it seems like, between Raw and SmackDown, is that they don't feel different at all. One just has blue lights, one has red lights. It was a bigger deal before when the shows were really, really boring, but now with the Bloodline getting on the map, all the great things we see on Raw, I'm entertained by the shows, but they still feel largely the same. The commentary is the same. Everything's the same. This would be a good opportunity to definitely have SmackDown and give SmackDown a different vibe. It's shorter. It's got Mauro Ranallo screaming at you the whole time. It's got a lot of excitement, and maybe they can develop a different identity if they had different personalities behind the mic. I don't know. So we'll see what happens in the future. I like Kevin Patrick. I really had no issue with him. These days, I don't really pay much attention to the announcers, to be honest. When I'm watching Raw or something, I'm tweeting, I'm fucking around. I kind of tune them out. Sometimes I'll be reading Twitter and someone will laugh at, oh, did you hear what Michael Cole said? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Sometimes I pick things up, but for large part, I tune them out. And I've been doing that for years now. So I don't even really care. He didn't really bother me. And Jimmy Smith had that good little run there. And they haven't really found like a good person that they can really trust to stay there. I mean, it's really Graves and it's Cole, but shit, Vic Joseph is just sitting right there. What's wrong with him? They've had some good announcers in that company that for whatever reason they haven't used or given permanent roles to, or when they did, they took it away from them. I don't know, but all the best to Kevin Patrick. I really had nothing against the guy. I thought he did fine, but I guess he really wasn't giving them the energy or giving them whatever they were looking for. So he was demoted and then subsequently released, and we wish Kevin Patrick the best. So we'll see what WWE does in the future. For now, sounds like it's going to be Cole, but we'll see maybe next week on SmackDown if they have somebody else, or if they just ride with Cole until the end of the Fox deal and then give SmackDown a new look when they go to USA in October. Maybe that's what they do. Who knows? But all the best to Kevin Patrick. Let me cruise back over here to the chat. Trying to get up. Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you, mods. Go ahead and just hide anybody that's going to be throwing any shade and any tribal crap. Well, I don't know what Transferring Heat is saying here, but just shut the fuck up. It's not about that today. You can be an asshole any other day. Just not today. We're going to try to be cool and try to be, try to have at least some respect for the victims here. Smitty, Trump might try to bail Vince out of bail Vince out of this. Well, he's gonna have no money. First of all, he was ordered to pay $83 million to the woman he raped just today. He's gonna be broke as fuck. All his MAGA money is going right down the drain. This guy's a fucking buffoon. He's not going to be president, so he can't pardon Vince. And I'm not. Can you even pardon somebody on a fucking rape allegation? Jesus, man. It wouldn't be a good look for him anyway. But he ain't gonna get that far. He's never gonna be president again. It's not even an issue. But nobody is going to be able to help Vince if this is something that, and criminal charges are brought on him. He will not escape it. He will not escape it. So, but he might be spending his final days in a less comfortable place than he's staying now. You think about these Weinsteins and these Bill Cosbys, and throw Vince McMahon on the pile. The fucking sick freak. Anyway, let's talk about the Royal Rumble. Let's try to be positive here. Let's talk about something happy. I was looking so much forward, and I still am, but I was really looking forward to tomorrow, hanging out with you guys. I took the weekend off. I was actually going to be off tonight, but as it turns out, I am going to go into work. But I took the weekend off. I was looking forward to hanging back, kicking back with you guys tomorrow, watching the Royal Rumble, having a great time, experiencing all the surprises, getting giddy about the WrestleMania season, and a lot of things could fall into place after tomorrow, and it was really going to be a fun day. I'm going to do my best to still have fun with you guys. I'm still looking forward to it, but maybe not as much as I was just a couple of days ago. Now that we've learned all of this news, it's really going to be hard to sit here and smile and laugh and be happy. I guess that's where beer and edibles come in handy, I guess. So we're still going to do that tomorrow. Just maybe I'm not as enthused as I would have been a couple of days ago. But I'm hoping that WWE at least is still business as usual. I don't know in terms of moral compass standards, how I'm going to feel about watching this and enjoying it and marking out for it. But, a lot of people think about the people who flew into Tampa, and are going to the show tomorrow. And a lot of them learning about this stuff, it's got to be weird. I'm trying to enjoy the show, but how can you not think about this? And it would be driving me nuts if I was there in person. So watching it tomorrow is going to be weird because there's still a lot of uncertainty and this news is so fresh, and we haven't learned yet anyway how TKO is going to handle this. And so far, they haven't done a whole lot. I'm expecting them to make some rulings here and make some moves to just get this squashed as quickly and move on from it as quickly as they can, unless they're waiting for all of it to come out too. Maybe they know there's more. Well, let's just wait a couple more days because he's going to have some more, and then we'll boot him after that. But if I'm them, I'm getting him out now. But we still have a pay-per-view tomorrow. Like I said, I'm only seeing 4 matches. There's not a women's match on this show, right? Just the Women's Rumble. So they have all the women piled in there. I guess Aew and Rhea, have the night off? I guess, just like Seth Rollins. A lot of champions have off on this Royal Rumble. And please let me know if I'm missing a match besides the U.S. title, the Fatal 4-Way, and the two Rumbles, because that's all I've got written down, unless I'm blind and missing something important. Or they might add a match tonight on SmackDown. That's very possible. They could actually do that. I want to thank Mighty Mike 84 for the $5. How many surprises do you think we will get tomorrow night, Greg? I think we're going to get a few, but maybe not as few as we were going to get with the lawsuit kind of implementing Brock Lesnar a little bit. So let's talk about the surprises first before we start predicting these matches. Surprises in the men's and women's Rumble. Wait, scratch that. We're going to backtrack. We're going to do the 2 championship matches first, then we'll finish with the Rumbles, and then we can talk about those surprises. So let's talk about and start with Logan Paul defending his United States title against Kevin Owens. I would love for Kevin Owens to get a victory here. I would love for him to be, I don't care if he's U.S. champion or not. I want him to be world champion. I would love for him to beat Logan Paul, but I have a feeling Logan Paul would not have won the U.S. title at all if they were just going to take it off of him 2 months later. So I feel like Logan Paul is taking that belt into WrestleMania, which means he's going to walk out of the Rumble tomorrow as U.S. champion. Does he beat Kevin Owens? Or does he just survive and live to fight another day? I feel like he's going to have to beat Kevin Owens in some way. Some cheating or something needs to go down for him to get the victory over Kevin Owens, because if he gets a DQ victory or something, they might have to run it back. And I think a lot of people might be expecting Logan Paul to be defending that title against LA Knight at WrestleMania. And if that's the case, he needs to survive Kevin Owens. So as much as I would love to see Owens win the title here, I'm going to pick Logan Paul to retain. I just hope that Kevin Owens can do something significant at WrestleMania. This guy was in the main event of night 1 last year with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is currently off TV, but probably due back anytime. Sami Zayn will probably be in the Rumble tomorrow night. I hope he will. And maybe Owens and Zayn can do something together at Mania or have some sort of a story. They might both be involved in the Elimination Chamber matches next month, or the Elimination Chamber match next month in Australia. Not sure if they're going to get back together to, go after the tag since they're on separate brands, but hopefully they will both do something significant at WrestleMania, and it won't be a massive step down from what they did last year. So I'm also trying to think of Owens' future when I'm trying to predict this match with Logan Paul, because I don't want him just to be in some shitty-ass match at WrestleMania, or maybe not be on the card at all, or be in the pre-show, or be in a battle royal. I want him to have a feud or a program or a story or something going into WrestleMania. So if he drops this match and loses to Logan Paul, and then Logan Paul moves on to another opponent for WrestleMania season, I wonder what Owens is going to do. But I do predict Logan Paul to beat Kevin Owens tomorrow and retain the United States Championship. So that's one heel winning. I also predict Roman Reigns to successfully defend the WWE Championship in that Fatal 4-Way over AJ Styles LA Knight and Randy Orton. Who's going to eat the pin in this match? I would probably say AJ. I mean, if Randy Orton's Randy Orton, so he's not gonna. And LA Knight, if he is going to go into WrestleMania and beat Logan Paul, maybe they don't want him taking any losses for a while, and that leaves AJ, because AJ's, a made icon legend, been wrestling forever. He can eat a loss and still be AJ Styles tomorrow, no big deal. I feel like AJ would be the guy, and we'll see how Roman survives this. I mean, there still is the outside chance that he loses the title here. I can't see that happening, but things are up in the air right now, man. WrestleMania looked to have kind of a clear-cut story all the way up until November, and then boom, CM Punk comes back. Then a month and a half later, Rock comes out on TV talking about the head of the table shit. So now he's back, and now we have the Vince McMahon lawsuit, which might be pulling Brock Lesnar out of plans. Out of creative plans. They had Gunther confront Seth Rollins on Monday. Punk and Cody came face to face. Everything feels jumbled. So you have to wonder if they have decided to pivot in any way and go with Roman Reigns and The Rock again. Because now it looks like we could be looking at Gunther and Seth, and we could be looking at Cody and Punk. Although I still think they spent all that time establishing Seth and Rollins. They're still going to do that. They have to, but everybody was so impressed with the segment on Monday, the face-to-face promo with Punk and Cody, and how great that was, and how that's how you set up a match. I mean, when they put their faces together like that, that's your WrestleMania poster right there. That's your whole poster, is those two guys. But neither one are a champion, so how can you main event that? And that would be a big enough attraction to where you could do that match and it would be exciting, but I still just can't see it happening. So I can't see that happening. So Roman Reigns dropping his title now so he can face The Rock at WrestleMania, and then Cody can face Orton or something. That does not feel like it would be what they're doing, since Cody is, kind of kicking something off with Punk. And I'm still hoping Cody finishes his story. At the end of the day, Roman is going to have to win here. And like I said, if they are setting up, I pitched this finish of the last couple of episodes, thinking all the way ahead of WrestleMania. If we do get Roman and Cody on night 2, you think about how Roman Reigns has won all of his previous matches, including the one against Cody last year at WrestleMania with Solo coming in with a spike. The ultimate bloodline cock block would be one of their own family members, Roman Reigns The Rock coming out to prevent Roman Reigns' crew from interfering and helping him again, allowing Cody to get Roman all by himself, one-on-one, mano-a-mano in the ring, and he beats him as The Rock is neutralizing the rest of the bloodline. And that would be a tremendous finish. That would be an absolute tremendous finish to WrestleMania. And a good way to really set the stage for that is for Roman here to have another one of those BS victories. And this time in a fatal 4-way, it's all legal. It's all legal. So even though Roman's at a huge disadvantage because he can be pinned and not be pinned and lose the title, he's also at a major advantage because he's got Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, who can basically just come out there and make this thing a 3-on-3 match. And he can have a lot of backup there if he wants to. And if Roman, and that's the way I would book this if I was WWE. But I'm saying this in the context of what I'm pitching for WrestleMania. If what I'm pitching comes true, and that is it's Cody and Roman at WrestleMania on night 2, and The Rock is the one that prevents the bloodline from helping Roman. If that's the direction they go in, then I would really have Roman survive in a really annoying way here. I would have him beat. I would have the fans thinking he's done. And then yet again that we've seen at SummerSlam and Clash at the Castle and WrestleMania and every damn show that this fucker has wrestled on, you've got a bloodline member or members coming out there to save his ass. And if it happens here again, and it really looks like Roman can't escape it, and then the bloodline comes in and saves him one more time, that should do enough, raise the ire of the fans enough to really increase the level of frustration they have with Roman. A lot of fans are getting fed up with him, and if I'm WWE and the plan is for him to drop the title to Cody at WrestleMania, I'm leaning into that hard. I am only making it worse. I am keeping Roman Reigns off as many pay-per-views as possible. Like if the bloodline comes and saves him from certain defeat again, and then he takes Perth off and he's just not at the Chamber at all, not even making the trip. And that's a brutal flight to Australia from here. Holy shit. So if he just takes that off, the fans are going to be like, this fucking guy, it's just going to add to that. It's going to fuel that, which I think would make a Cody victory over him all that much more sweet when it happens. So I think Roman is going to survive. He's going to have a ton of help from the bloodline, and it's going to be more of the same shit. And you're going to see that a lot on social media. For the first time ever, I'm actually hoping for the same old shit, because I think that's going to be helpful to the Roman heat going into his hopefully championship match at WrestleMania, which he loses. And then if Rock is able to help Cody out like I pitched, then you've got your Roman and Rock seed planted for WrestleMania 41. And we haven't gotten a location on WrestleMania 41 yet. I know Minneapolis was the front runner. We heard that all the way back in July of last year, I think, that Minneapolis was likely the landing spot for WrestleMania 41, but I don't think we know for sure at all. I don't think anything's been announced. And if WWE does The Rock and Roman Reigns, I love you, Minnesota, but that's not a Minneapolis match. That match belongs in two places, Miami or Vegas or LA. But they did LA just last year, so they're not going to come back here. I'm really holding out hope that Roman Reigns versus The Rock happens next year, because if it does, I think that gives Vegas a chance to get WrestleMania, man. If Vegas gets WrestleMania, that means I'm going to go, because I can just drive there. So I'm hoping that it's in Vegas next year, not Minneapolis. But I feel like Rock versus Roman Reigns, the market that needs to be in needs to be either Rock's hometown, where his cheers can be maximized, or Vegas. That's my personal opinion there. But we will see. Either way, Roman Reigns walks out of Royal Rumble tomorrow as champion. Where will that match fit on the card? Now, I feel like since it's only 4 matches, it should be the Women's Rumble opening, followed by Logan and Owens, followed by the 4-way, followed by the Men's Rumble. But I suppose Roman's title defense could be the main event. Roman has very rarely not main evented a pay-per-view. I think just that one Money in the Bank, right? What other pay-per-views has he not main evented? I think he's gone on last almost everything. And I did say that the only way we see a title change in the Fatal 4-Way is if it goes on last, because I don't think they're going to take the title off of Roman and pivot to Cody and Orton and do that in the middle of the show. Roman dropping the title needs to be a monumental occasion. That's why Night 2 main event of WrestleMania is the perfect place for that, not the Royal Rumble. But if it goes on last, that's going to make me wonder if it's possible. It's also going to make me wonder if maybe Damian Priest might cash in. Could you imagine that? Damian Priest cashing in and winning the title? I think he can still do that. I just think it might be for the world title. So we will see how that all shakes out. But I'm curious where the Fatal 4-Way will land on the Rumble card. I believe it's going to go third ahead of the Men's Rumble, but WWE might feel like Roman is the main event. So the Men's Rumble is going to go on first. And if it does, then maybe look for somebody else that you weren't thinking of to win it. I don't know. I fucking don't know, man. So anyway, Roman Reigns winning the Fatal 4-Way tomorrow. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that. New York, yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to see. They were just there in 35, but that would be 6 years, so they could certainly go back. I think New Orleans only had like a 6-year gap right in between theirs, or maybe a 4. They were there for 30 and 34, right? New Orleans. So, but Vegas hasn't gotten one yet since what, WrestleMania 9? Having it at Allegiant Stadium would be sweet. And I've been there. I was there at SummerSlam a couple years ago. It's a sweet ass venue, and I think Vegas is the perfect town for wrestling, because what I love about that is there's no driving. You just drive to Vegas, get in your fucking hotel, and you're there, dude. Just get a hotel within a mile of the fucking arena, and everything you need is right there. And it's the best, and it's the best place to meet up. It's the best place to hang out and meet other fans. It's great. Vegas is the best place for watching wrestling if you're a fan and you want to interact with each other. Where, LA and SoFi Stadium, there's nothing around there to go see and go do. You can't walk to a close by cafe and hang out, or a bar or something like that, where Vegas has got all of that. So I'm hoping it's Vegas in 2026, I guess. Hopefully. Anyway, let's talk about the Women's Royal Rumble now. This is where we can start talking about some of these potential surprises. For the women, I think some surprises that we could see, because they've only announced 4, I believe, women for this thing. So they're leaving it all up in the air, which means they're probably going to dip into the NXT pool a little bit. We'll see a couple of appearances there. Maybe they'll bring in some surprises from the past again. I doubt we would get Beth Phoenix, but that would be really cool if we did. AJ Lee is another one that I think would be really fun to see her come back. Any other former WWE diva that can still make an appearance and can still do something physically might be fun. Maybe a Molly Holly. But then again, I think you've got enough women in the company now to where you don't really have to reach too far to fill the field. I think in the first Women's Royal Rumble, they had to pull a lot of old people out. Like Kelly came back in and Tori Wilson, and they were just trying to grab any former women's wrestlers that they could, or divas or whatnot. But now with NXT and the current roster on Raw and SmackDown, and how the women's division has grown and grown well, I don't think they're going to have to get too many outside names other than really, really fun surprises. And I think AJ Lee would be a really, really fun surprise. Another one, probably Jade Cargill. I was thinking that I have 2 ideas for Jade Cargill. Let me know what you think. She either debuts tomorrow, which I think she's a near lock for, but if she didn't debut tomorrow at the Royal Rumble, then I would hold her off until maybe like the night after WrestleMania, and have your brand new undisputed Universal Champion Cody Rhodes introduce the newest member to the Raw roster. So like maybe Cody beats Roman Reigns on night 2, right? Now, in order to do that, Cody is going to have to either win the Rumble tomorrow or perhaps win a Chamber to earn the other shot, but he's still a Raw guy, so he's going to have to find a way to get over there. And if Cody is going to be challenging Roman, that means the majority of their segments might take place on SmackDown, or they might conjoin him and on Raw a little bit. Maybe Roman comes over to Raw for a couple of segments. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I feel like, for example, if Cody wins the Rumble and wants to challenge Roman, then he's got to be on SmackDown then. And then if he beats Roman Reigns, he's on SmackDown, is he not? If he beats Roman Reigns and wins the title at WrestleMania, that means Cody is no longer on Raw, and Cody is a big part of Raw. So Cody may then be moving to SmackDown, and maybe he comes out on Raw for his victory speech and say, hey, of course, as you guys know, since I won this title last night, that means I have to go over there now. And I'm going to miss you. But don't worry, I'm going to be back. You'll see me. You'll see me. I'll be here. He should joke and say, you guys know the brand split doesn't mean anything. He should do that. He should just joke about that. He goes, but I have a present for you before I leave. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you a good friend of mine, somebody that I have a lot of history with, go way back with. And I think she's going to do a great job here on the roster. Welcome your newest member of the WWE main roster, Jade Cargill. And he brings out Jade, and they shake hands, they share a hug, and they're tight. I mean, they're homies from AEW. And Cody is the one that kind of brings her out. She gets introduced by the brand new face of the company. It's the first thing he does. Let me welcome out my friend. And then Cody leaves, and Jade is there now, and that's kind of like his little parting gift as he leaves, giving WWE Raw Jade Cargill. I think that would be fun if something like that happened. So if Jade doesn't show up in the Rumble, then I would hold her off for like a night after WrestleMania thing. That's another thing I want to bring back. I'm curious to see how Triple H, if he's still in the company in a couple of months, I'm curious how Triple H is going to book a night after WrestleMania, because Vince McMahon completely sabotaged the night after WrestleMania last year, or the Raw after WrestleMania, I should say. So it would be awesome if those could be brought back, if the feeling and the excitement of those could be brought back. They have been shit for the past 8 years? It just feels like they've been so uneventful. You go back to those days of like Brock Lesnar coming back and, oh my God, and Ziggler winning the title. Like, I want to bring something like that back. So I would save like a Priest cash in for that. A Jade Cargill debut for that would be really fun, I think, to do one of those two things there. So Jade Cargill is another woman you could see surprise us in the Women's Rumble. Sasha Banks is another one, although I lost the tweet. I did not see. Sean Ross Sapp tweeted something today, and I don't want to try to quote it because I don't remember it. But it definitely felt like the belief inside of WWE is Sasha is just not coming in. She's going to be AEW bound. I still think it would be awesome if we were thrown off that scent and she turned up, because for me, it's all about surprises. I personally am not expecting Sasha Banks to be in the Rumble. I believe the reports that she's probably going to go to AEW, but we've been hearing a lot of things about Mercedes, and she's been doing a good job of not really lending too much evidence as to what she's going to do or what her plans or desires are. So if she shows up tomorrow, keeping everybody on our toes would be a compliment to her. It would be a credit to Mercedes in today's world of, social media and the information age, and the way that wrestling is just not the way it used to be. And a lot of information is traveling everywhere. For us to have the wrong idea about something is great. So I, for one, hope she shows up in the Rumble, because I would like to be surprised, but my gut is telling me we're not going to see her. I think she'll be heading to AEW, and if she does, that will be exciting. But if she showed up there, especially if we're getting some sort of a beatdown in the ring with maybe Damage Control is in there with, I guess it would just be Kyrie and Asuka would be in there with Bayley, and maybe it's just the three of them, and the Kabuki start teaming up on Bayley or something, and then out comes Sasha to save her. That would be magical, but I don't think it's going to happen. Charlotte is another name. A lot of people have been wondering if maybe her knee injury isn't quite as bad as WWE was letting on, and maybe she's going to pull the John Cena 2008 thing when he was supposed to be out for another 3 to 5 months, and then he turned up in the Royal Rumble as the last entrant and shocked the hell out of everybody. So that would be fun if she did that, but again, I'm not feeling it. So those are kind of the surprises on the women's side. Otherwise, I don't know who they're going to bring from NXT, which ones are going to get the call up for this. And I don't know if we're really going to see anybody from the past other than potentially an AJ Lee. So when it comes to the winners here, you think about who the two champions are, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. And I think it's only 2 women. I think only 2 women can win this. Bayley or Becky. With an outside chance of Nia Jax, although I'm not feeling Nia Jax. I would book Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley at the Elimination Chamber is what I would do. I would book them one-on-one. And since Nia Jax already has that victory over Becky Lynch, let's say Becky challenges Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania and then beats Rhea Ripley for the title. And now you do a rematch with Becky Lynch and Nia Jax because Nia beat her on Raw a few weeks back. Now you do a rematch. It can be on TV. It don't have to be pay-per-view. Just do it a rematch on TV. This time for the title, Becky's defending and gets her win back over Nia Jax. I'd book it that way. So I suppose you could have Nia Jax win this, but I feel like it's going to be Becky or Bayley. And my issue here is something I always struggle with. I turn my brain in knots, and you guys know this, trying to think of these winners. And in my mind, not that there's a rule against it, I just can't see the Rumble winners coming from the same brand. If they both came from Raw, it sounds like those are the 2 championships that are going to be challenged for. Because if a Raw woman wins it, why would they go after Io? Rhea Ripley's right there, So I feel like Ripley would be the challenger, especially if it's a Becky or a Nia Jax who already have, an issue and have kind of a building thing with Rhea Ripley. So if one of those 2 women won, then they're going to challenge Ripley. So we know that. But we also already kind of know that a Raw guy is definitely pegged for that Rumble. Is anybody even thinking about a SmackDown guy right now? With the Rumble, it is all about Cody and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Gunther. Those are 4 huge ones. Don't forget Jey Uso's on that brand too. And so is Sami Zayn, who I think is going to turn up. Another super over guy. So Raw is just stacked on that end. I just cannot see a SmackDown person winning the Rumble based on who the 2 current champions are right now. And with the seeds already planted with Seth Rollins and CM Punk, and now Seth Rollins with Gunther, if one of those guys wins the Rumble, it feels like Seth is going to be their choice. And even Gunther said that on Monday. And I was happy that Gunther said, if I win the Rumble, I'm challenging you. That tells us that at least in kayfabe, these wrestlers view that title as just as prestigious as Roman Reigns, even though I argue that if I'm a wrestler, I want that victory over Roman. I want to be that guy. That's just almost as big an accolade as winning the title itself in my mind as it would be, to beat him and be the person that's going to go down in the history books as the one that ended that long run of yours. And so that would be the more attainable and bigger accomplishment in my mind. But WWE's really trying to make you think that the World Heavyweight title is just as important. So it feels like a Raw guy is going to win. So if that's the case, is Becky Lynch going to win the Women's Rumble? They're planting the seeds for that. She's already made it known to Rhea Ripley's face on TV that she wants her at WrestleMania. They've even mentioned WrestleMania. So in my mind, the Royal Rumble is a little bit too obvious. It would work. She could totally win the Royal Rumble, get the shot against Rhea, and then Bayley over on SmackDown can continue her story with Damage Control, and that title shot can materialize that way. Bayley could still face Io for the title at WrestleMania without having to win the Rumble. So the good thing here about the Women's Rumble is there's ways to make it work both ways. So it's just up to WWE. I mean, if Logan Paul and Roman Reigns are going to both be retaining their titles, you might want some baby faces in there. And if Becky wins, that would be a big babyface victory. She's one of WWE's top stars. And if Bayley were to win, that would put heel winning with Logan, Roman, and Bayley all winning their respective matches. And I think perhaps Bayley could be a babyface by the time she gets to WrestleMania if she earns the title shot. And then, of course, Damage Control is pushing her to challenge Ripley. You should challenge Ripley, then we'll have all the titles, especially if the Kabukis win the titles tonight on SmackDown. And then they're like, hey, go complete the sweep and go challenge Rhea Ripley and bring all the titles belts home. I could see them doing that. So I am torn. I don't know what to think here. Part of me thinks it's going to be Becky Lynch, and the other part of me thinks it's going to be Bayley. I'm going to pick Bayley based on the fact that like I said earlier, I just don't think the two Rumble winners are going to come from the same brand and challenge both of the champions on the same brand. I feel like the Rumble winners and the title matches have to be split up. So if Bayley wins the Rumble, she's got the Io shot on SmackDown. And then when the men's Rumble winner wins, he's got the shot against Seth Rollins. That's the way I kind of feel like it's going to go, even though on paper, this doesn't look very good with Logan Paul, Roman Reigns, and now Bayley all picking up wins. And in the order that these matches I think are going to go, I think it's going to go Bayley winning the Rumble first, then Logan Paul beating Owens, then Roman Reigns winning the four-way. And now we're on to the men's Royal Rumble, which I think we have a lot of contenders, and it's a lot less predictable maybe than it was last year. We're talking about Gunther and Cody and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. All of these guys I think have excellent shots to win because we don't really know what the future of Seth's injury is going to be or how much WWE needs to pivot because of the Vince lawsuit and whatever Brock plans they might have had. That could play a role. And if they have to do any changes to their creative plans, I really think that opens up the door for any of these guys, even Drew McIntyre, to win the Rumble here. So I'm not ruling anybody out. But I think at the end of the day, it needs to come down to Punk or Cody. Both of these guys with that face-to-face thing on Raw makes you wonder when the hell this match is going to happen, makes you want that match for WrestleMania. So you have to get that at some point, but it might be a ways off. We don't know. I mean, WWE might have seen that reaction on Monday and changed their minds and say, hey, we got to figure out some way to get to Cody and Punk because fans obviously want that match. Or they might wait a little while on that. And if they wait a little while, what I would personally like to see, because last year, Gunther was number 1, right? And then Cody was 30. Is that how it went? I want Cody number 1 this year. And I've been saying that for months. But what would be even better is if CM Punk was number 2. That's how you tease us. Because if you can't give us that match for a while, like you can't give us that match until later on this year at a Crown Jewel or something. Because if Cody wins the title from Roman, he's going to be on SmackDown. Then these guys are going to be on separate brands anyway. So maybe, it's like the Undertaker-Shawn thing. We get that little tease in the Royal Rumble of 2007, and then we didn't see them wrestle for 2 more years. You just got that little tease just to make you wonder what it would be like when it actually happens. So if CM Punk and Cody Rhodes come in at number 1 and 2, we get 2 minutes of CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. And that would be fucking awesome. And I would have both of these guys telling their own stories in the Royal Rumble. And I would have both of them make it close to the end. Close to the end. Not all the way, but close to the end. And I would have Gunther coming out at number 30. And from there, I don't even know. Well, shit. If you had Gunther come out at 30, he wins. If Gunther comes out at number 30, he wins. And if Gunther comes out at number 30 and he wins, holy shit, does that change things? Because if he were to come out and eliminate Cody and Punk at the same time, then he challenges Seth Rollins for the title. And now, what does CM Punk do? Because if Cody now wants to still try to target Roman Reigns and get that match, fine, but then Punk's left with no opponent. Punk's supposed to be working with Rollins. Like, what's going to happen there? Maybe Punk's going to work with Rollins early, but Rollins is hurt. So how's that going to factor in? Rollins is probably not going to wrestle until WrestleMania, so there's going to be no chamber match for him. Shit, man, I don't know. I don't know what direction to go in. I feel like Gunther, I think, is the favorite in Vegas, but now you got 4 heels winning if Gunther wins. Punk winning, I think, would be fun because you could get to Punk and Seth Rollins. But let's just say one of the surprises in this match was supposed to be Brock Lesnar. And because of that lawsuit, they now need to pull him. What was Brock Lesnar going to do? Probably set up a match with Gunther at WrestleMania. So if that's out now, you have to have Gunther do something significant because he is on the rise, man. So you may have to figure out a way to get him in the World Heavyweight Championship picture, which then might make Rollins and Punk and Gunther a 3-way or something. I don't know. So I feel like Gunther winning would really start painting a clearer picture of WrestleMania. Another option here, we got to talk about those surprises, of course. Like I said, it's all down to Punk and Cody for me, although I'm not ruling Punk, Cody, and Gunther, and then with a possibility of McIntyre. But could we see some debuts in the Rumble? Okada would be great, but his contract is not quite up yet, because Okada would be another great, I guess, replacement for Brock Lesnar. That is one way I think Gunther could perhaps land on his feet here, is if he maybe did like an open challenge at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title, and Okada came out and beat him for it. And then after that, Gunther, goes on to his world title aspiration. So he could still do something at WrestleMania significant. Plus, you got to remember, he still is Intercontinental Champion, and maybe they can just tie up and finish up his feud with Chad Gable, which I would also like to see that happen. So having Okada come in would be possible. MJF is not going to happen. I just don't see that happening. And Hulk Hogan, perhaps. A couple of days ago, I actually thought it would be possible that Hogan could come in if all of the wrestlers were very careful dumping his ass out. They're probably in the best part of the country for him to get cheers if they ever really wanted to have him out there one final time, but it would be a bad look. It's just not what you want to be doing right now. You've already got enough negative press pointed at your company right now, and bringing him out there would just not be anything you need to do. So maybe a couple of weeks ago, and even as recent as last Monday, I might have thought Hogan had a chance to make an appearance here, but now, no way. I know he can't walk and all that shit, but if he could waddle his ass down the ramp and all of the wrestlers were very careful with him, I think they could maybe do it, but it doesn't matter. Having him come out, no matter what he's teasing, would be a bad move by WWE. And I've also been mentioning, and it's something I think WWE really could use right now. They could use something positive, and I think there would be no better surprise than Big E when it comes to positivity, the power of positivity. And I've pitched a scenario in the last couple of weeks, since we have seen, number one, after Big E's injury, they never did break up Kofi and Xavier. They still were acting like the New Day, doing New Day shit, coming out to do New Day music. Xavier's got the trumpet and all of that. And I'm like, well, Big E is never going to wrestle again. Feels like WWE would maybe want to just do something else with these guys, unless they just want to make them a straight tag team, which they've been, or maybe try to utilize Xavier and Kofi in different ways, since there's a whole lot of talent sitting right there that are just kind of treading water. And if Big E's not coming back, I would maybe try to do something with, get a few more years out of Kofi, and maybe perhaps give Xavier a push or something. And since they didn't do that, it's always made me wonder if the plan is for Big E to reunite with these guys at some point. Maybe they don't want to break up out of respect for him. Maybe it's a personal thing. We'd rather not break up, because if he does come back, we would like to know that we waited for him. We didn't break up and do other things and then reunite. We waited for our boy to come home. And so if that's what they're doing, and when you think about who they're currently feuding with right now on WWE, a 3-man faction, I can see a scenario where there's 5 men in the ring: Gunther, Ludwig, Vinci, Xavier, and Kofi. And then that ticker, and that time clock starts going down, 10, 9, 8, and out comes Big E. And you think about those emotions Edge gave us back in 2020 when he returned, and that look on his face, and just the amazing moment that created. We could have that with Big E. And I think that's something WWE could really use right now, something positive and something that we can be happy about. Big E returning to the ring. We don't know with his recovery. He's talked a little bit about that even recently, but still not really letting on one way or the other what his plans are. And I feel like if he was going to come back, now would be the perfect time. So that would overjoy me as a wrestling fan to see him come out tomorrow. So that's one surprise I'm hoping for, is Big E. And it could be a way to get Gunther out of there. You know, I talked about Gunther coming in at number 30 earlier on, but if you have Gunther coming in the middle and Big E is the one that eliminates him, then you can do Big E and Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania. That would also work just fine. So Big E is one surprise I am really hoping for tomorrow, because I want to be happy and I just want to smile and I want to cry, man, because I think I will if I see his ass dancing out there with his greased up titties. Oh, Big E, I hope you come back, man. So, at the end of the day, I think Punk and Cody should tell a really fun story in there, and maybe even both be in there in the end. But maybe at the end of the day, Punk gets his moment here. And that's what I've said all along. And again, plans are so discombobulated right now, I think anything can happen. But I've been saying that when Punk gets in the ring for the first time one-on-one with Seth Rollins, that he should lose to him and take that loss. And I think at WrestleMania, Punk should lose and Cody should win. They already had that face-to-face. They kind of have, they're button heads a little bit. Cody is going to have a better moment at WrestleMania than CM Punk is. But CM Punk is going to have a better moment at the Royal Rumble than Cody is. So I think in the Royal Rumble, Cody needs to be maybe eliminated by Gunther, or something needs to happen. Maybe it's one of those deals where everybody's kind of on the ropes and then somebody comes in and pushes the pile and somebody just falls out and it's nobody's fault really, or whatever. Or maybe CM Punk can just straight up eliminate Cody. And Cody's eliminated. It appears that his story isn't going to be fulfilled now. Oh, he's down. Those that report that Sports Illustrated released that he wasn't going to finish his story, which I think is bullshit and is just a way to throw us off the trail. But that would play into that as well. Fans would start freaking out. Oh my God, Cody's getting fucked. That's what they would think. And CM Punk winning here, and then Gunther now has got, maybe something started with Brock Lesnar, but if that doesn't happen, maybe Big E or maybe Chad Gable again, and Gunther stays busy. Then you've got Punk and Rollins, and then you've got Cody figuring out a way to get that title shot at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, and you have Rollins beating CM Punk to retain his title and then getting cashed in on by Damian Priest on night 1, and you have Cody beating Roman Reigns on night 2, maybe with help from The Rock neutralizing the bloodline who tries to interfere, endorsing Cody at the end. That's my WrestleMania. And I mentioned one person there on purpose, The Rock. If Rock and Roman Reigns is going to happen at WrestleMania, and if Roman Reigns is going to be champion at WrestleMania, then number 30 in the Royal Rumble needs to be The Rock, and he needs to win it. And I think it would be pretty funny if Cody and Punk started 1 and 2. They survived everybody. And they're the last two guys in the ring. Both of them survived the whole Rumble. They're the last two guys in the ring. Number 30 hits, and it's The Rock. And The Rock comes in the ring and double clotheslines them both over the top rope and wins the Royal Rumble. There's your finish. But no, at the end of the day, I'm going to pick CM Punk. I'm going to pick CM Punk to win the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to pick CM Punk to lose at WrestleMania. That's what I feel like is going to happen. And my predictions, even though I'm not confident in them, I think spread everything out nicely, especially with the Rumbles. You know, it gives the Rumble winner to SmackDown for the women, where she can challenge for that title. It gives the men's Rumble winner to Raw, so he can challenge for that title. Cody can still find his way over to SmackDown to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I've plugged The Rock into this equation. I've found something for Gunther to do, whether it be with Big E or the Chad Gable, or if WWE goes through with their plans with Brock Lesnar, although I don't think they should, but if they do, they should definitely have Gunther beat Brock Lesnar. I feel like Gunther can find things to do. I think the confrontation with Seth on Monday was more of just a tease and a reminder that Gunther is going to be world champion this year, maybe just not winning the belt at WrestleMania. Maybe this is something that's going to come after, or SummerSlam, or wherever, whenever, maybe even one of these international shows once the issues with his visa get resolved. That can happen in the future, but I feel like CM Punk is the way to go here. So, yeah. There you go. But anyway, I am almost running out of time, and I got to bail out of here, guys. But let me cruise to the chat real quick and see if I missed anything major. I don't think I did. If for any reason I missed any super chats here, I apologize. We will get to those tomorrow because we're going to be up here for a lot of hours hanging out together. But this was fun predicting the Royal Rumble. Not so much fun talking about the Vince McMahon stuff, but I want to thank everybody for being here again today. If you don't mind, smash that thumbs up button out the door. And if you are a subscriber, please, or if you're not a subscriber, please become one. Click that subscribe button below and join us tomorrow night for our Royal Rumble watch party. We could be watching some crazy shit go down. And I kind of hope we do, because I'd like to get my mind off some of this negativity and be and be happy for a while. And maybe tomorrow is our opportunity to do that. So you guys enjoy SmackDown. It goes live in about 30 minutes. I'll be keeping my eye on it. Let me know if anything crazy happens over on the social medias. Have a great rest of your Friday tonight. Stay happy, stay safe, get jiggy, and join me tomorrow for our Royal Rumble watch party. Y'all take care. Peace.